AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding and causing a huge family rift? I, 28F, have always been the responsible one in my family. I live a pretty structured life, and I've always tried to help my family whenever I could. That being said, I also have boundaries, and this is where the problem started. My younger sister, Emily, 25F, is getting married in 6 months, and from the beginning, her wedding planning has been, well, chaotic. My parents are supportive in a hands-off way, but Emily insists on involving me in absolutely every single detail of the wedding, even things that I frankly don't have the time, energy, or emotional bandwidth to handle. To give some context, Emily and I have never been super close. We were close as kids, but once we hit our late teens, we started drifting apart. She's always been more of a go-with-the-flow type, while I'm extremely organized and schedule-driven. Over the years, this has caused tension because she tends to rely on me for advice, help, or money, and then gets frustrated when I don't immediately agree with her. I've learned to set boundaries, but apparently, Emily hasn't gotten the memo. Around a year ago, Emily got engaged, and that's when the wedding planning madness started. At first, I thought my role would be small, like helping with dress shopping or giving opinions, but she quickly escalated it. She wanted me to handle the guest list, manage vendors, track RSVPs, and coordinate with the bridal party. She even asked me to create the seating chart. I told her I could give suggestions, but couldn't manage all of it because I have a full-time job that I love, live in a different city, and have my own life responsibilities. She said she understood, but then started sending me daily messages with urgent wedding problems that only I could solve. When I didn't respond immediately, she guilt-tripped me, and my parents often backed her up, saying that family should help each other. I tried to explain that I was willing to help in ways that were reasonable, but couldn't be her personal wedding planner. Things came to a head last month. She called me in tears because a vendor canceled last minute, and she wanted me to find a replacement within 24 hours. I told her I was sorry, but I couldn't drop everything to handle it. She accused me of not caring about her happiness and said I was selfish. I tried to explain that I would support her emotionally and help in ways that didn't interfere with my job and personal life, but she refused to listen. I suggested that she hire a professional wedding planner or ask friends who were local to help, and that seemed to make her even angrier. The real fight happened last weekend. Emily wanted me to attend a mandatory wedding planning weekend in her city, which would involve staying with her for 3 nights and helping her organize the venue, decorations, and catering. I looked at my schedule and realized I literally couldn't take off work for that long. I told her I couldn't come, but offered a video call and help plan remotely instead. She flipped out, accusing me of being emotionally unavailable and refusing to support her in her biggest life moment. My parents called me afterward and were extremely upset, saying I should have put her needs before my work and that I was hurting the family by refusing to prioritize her wedding. I tried to explain that I had already done plenty in the past, giving opinions, helping with minor tasks, and supporting her emotionally, but apparently, it wasn't enough. Since then, Emily has barely spoken to me, and my parents have been giving me the silent treatment. A couple of cousins and friends from my hometown have messaged me, saying that I'm being unfair and that I should just help my sister. It's not that hard. I feel like I'm being completely unreasonable in their eyes, but honestly, I feel trapped. I want to support Emily and be a good sister, but I also have a career, bills, and responsibilities that I can't just drop for a month-long wedding planning marathon. I also feel like my family is ignoring the fact that I've tried to help in ways that were reasonable. Part of me feels guilty because Emily is my sister and I do care about her, but another part of me feels resentful that she expects me to sacrifice so much of my life for her wedding. I've tried setting boundaries multiple times, and she keeps pushing them. I've even suggested compromises, like hiring a local wedding planner or getting friends to help with the weekend event, but she refuses anything that doesn't involve me being physically present and handling everything. At this point, I'm considering skipping the wedding entirely. I know that sounds extreme, but I feel like attending under the current circumstances would make me miserable and only fuel her sense that I'm selfish. My parents are furious and think I'm being dramatic. Emily has made passive-aggressive posts on social media about family members who refuse to support love and tagged me once, which made me feel awful but also frustrated that she's publicizing this instead of talking to me. I've tried talking to her calmly, but she shuts down or accuses me of being cold. I genuinely want to be a supportive sister, but I feel like I've reached the limit of what I can reasonably give. If I help her in the way she demands, I'll end up burned out, stressed, and resentful, which is not healthy for me or our relationship. I've even offered to help in ways that fit my life schedule. Phone calls, emails, giving advice, but she refuses. At this point, I don't know if I'm being selfish or if I'm just trying to protect my mental health. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding in the way she wants, even if it's causing a huge family rift. Character count, 6,486 if you want. I can also craft a second, even longer one hitting closer to 7,000 characters that's a bit more dramatic and complex, which tends to do really well on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding guest list include her +1 of someone she just met. I, 27F, am in a bit of a bind with my older sister, Jenna, 30F, and I need to know if I'm overreacting. Some background. Jenna and I have always been close, but also very different. I've always been the responsible planner, the follow-the-rules sibling, while she's more free-spirited and impulsive. Our parents are divorced, but both are very involved in our lives. Our family is reasonably small and tight-knit, so events like weddings are a big deal to all of us. Jenna got engaged about 6 months ago, and I've been helping her plan her wedding. It's a medium-sized affair, about 120 people, in our hometown. She insists on handling most of the fun parts herself, but keeps asking me for advice on logistics. I'm fine with this. I genuinely like helping her. I've also been helping with the guest list, which is where the problem started. Jenna has been dating her fiancé, Tom, 32M, for about a year. They're happy, and I genuinely like him. When we started drafting the guest list, I tried to make sure everyone they wanted there could fit within the budget. The venue has a strict limit, and each extra guest costs more than most people realize. I suggested they each make a list of people they absolutely want and then compare it, which is standard practice. Here's the problem. About 2 months ago, Jenna met someone else at a work conference. Let's call him Eric. She's only known him for 2 months and says they clicked instantly. She wants to invite him as her +1 to the wedding. I was taken aback because this isn't a casual friend. It's someone she's barely known. I expressed concern because we've already got a tight guest list, and every new addition means someone else gets cut. Jenna got defensive and said, "It's my wedding. I should be able to bring whoever I want." I tried to explain the practical side. We had already RSVP'd to most people, sent save the dates, and reserved seating. Adding a new guest would create chaos in the seating chart, increase costs, and honestly, make some longtime friends feel like they're being squeezed out. I also pointed out that bringing a random new person to such a significant family event might make people uncomfortable. Jenna said I was overreacting and accused me of being controlling. I told her I wasn't trying to control her wedding, but I was responsible for helping manage logistics and finances. She argued that her happiness should take precedence and that Eric coming would make her happy. I suggested maybe he could come to the rehearsal dinner instead, which is smaller and less formal, but she said no, he wanted to be there for the main event. Things escalated when she started pressuring our parents. Mom is supportive of Jenna, but tried to mediate, saying, "Maybe we can squeeze him in." Dad was frustrated because he's covering part of the costs and doesn't want the budget blown up. Jenna said I was being selfish for worrying about money over her feelings. Last week, I sent her a detailed message explaining that I can't approve adding Eric to the guest list because of budget and space constraints, and also because it sets a precedent for future +1s for people we barely know. I offered alternatives like including him in post-wedding celebrations, taking extra photos, or inviting him to the after-party. She responded angrily, accusing me of ruining her wedding, saying I don't care about her happiness, and that I'm trying to make her choose between love and family. Our communication has basically broken down. She's refusing to talk to me unless I let go of this, and now some mutual friends are asking if I'm really trying to stop her from inviting Eric. I feel stuck because I genuinely believe adding someone she just met to such an important event is unreasonable. On the other hand, I don't want to hurt my sister or cause a rift before her wedding. I know some people might say, it's her wedding, she can invite whoever she wants, and I understand that. But I also feel like I'm responsible for maintaining balance and logistics, and this decision impacts many others, not just her. I've tried compromising, but she won't budge. I don't want to be the villain here, but I also don't want a chaotic wedding with random last-minute guests. So Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister invite her new boyfriend of 2 months as her wedding plus one? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée handle our family Christmas this year after she completely disrespected me in front of everyone last year? So a little background. I, 28F, have a younger brother, Mike, 25M, and we've always been close. Our family has a tradition where we rotate hosting Christmas every year. Last year, it was Mike's turn, and he had recently started dating his now fiancée, Sarah, 27F. I didn't know her very well, but I wanted to be polite and welcoming since family holidays can be awkward when new people are involved. When we arrived at Mike and Sarah's place last Christmas, things were immediately off. Sarah had a vision for the holiday, which apparently involved a completely new set of traditions she'd invented. No one could bring food. Everyone had to participate in a secret talent showcase. And she spent a solid 2 hours making everyone do some weird ornament crafting activity that was exhausting. I tried to go along with it politely, but it was frustrating and confusing, especially since I brought a homemade pie for dessert and she completely ignored it. The real issue came later in the evening. My dad was trying to show off an old family photo album, which has been a tradition for decades, and Sarah loudly told him he should just skip it because nobody cares about boring old photos and that we should focus on the future, not the past. Everyone was stunned. I tried to speak up and defend my dad, saying it's been a family tradition and is important to him, and Sarah responded by rolling her eyes and saying, "You're just so stuck in the past. That's why no one enjoys Christmas with you." She said this loud enough for half the room to hear. I was mortified. Things didn't improve. She criticized my cooking. I had made a small side dish in front of everyone, told my mom that her decorations were so outdated it was sad, and generally acted like she was the authority on how Christmas should be done. By the end of the night, my parents were whispering to me that they felt embarrassed, and Mike was awkwardly apologizing, but clearly didn't want to confront her. I ended up leaving early because I couldn't handle the constant criticism and public humiliation. Since then, Mike and Sarah have become even more involved in our family gatherings. Sarah has now assumed she'll be running Christmas every year, and Mike seems to support it, thinking it makes things easier. I was asked about Christmas plans this year, and I told Mike and my parents that I absolutely will not participate if Sarah is in charge. I offered to host instead, saying I would love to do a traditional family Christmas that respects our old traditions. This caused a huge fight with Mike. He said I was being unreasonable and controlling, that Sarah has just as much right to decide how Christmas is done as anyone else, and that I was holding a grudge from last year. I tried to explain that it wasn't about grudges, it was about respect. Last year, she publicly insulted me and my family's traditions, and I don't feel comfortable being around someone who disrespects us that way. Mike then started bringing up things like, "You're overreacting. It wasn't that bad, and she's going to be part of the family. You need to accept that." I reminded him that being part of the family doesn't give someone the right to mock and humiliate others, and that last year was not a one-time misunderstanding. It was a clear pattern of dismissiveness toward me and my parents. Now, my parents are upset with me too. They said I should just let it go for the sake of family harmony, and that refusing to participate makes me seem petty. Mike is frustrated and says he doesn't know what to do because he wants Sarah and me to get along, but he also doesn't want to rock the boat with her. I feel like this is exactly why boundaries exist, to prevent people from walking all over you. I'm also worried that if I give in, Sarah will think she can continue disrespecting me every year, and I don't want to start a family tradition of being humiliated. I've tried suggesting compromises like splitting the day between her modern activities and traditional family activities, but she dismissed them and said, Christmas is about making it special for the people who know how to do it right, and I know how. This statement alone feels incredibly dismissive and arrogant, and it solidified my decision that I don't want her planning our family holidays. My friends and extended family are on my side, saying it's reasonable to want to protect family traditions and personal boundaries. But Mike and my parents are framing me as the problem. I feel torn because I do love my brother and my family, but I also feel strongly that I cannot let someone treat me and my family like last year again. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé run Christmas this year after the way she treated me and my family last year. AITA for refusing to give my sister a huge sum of money even though she's in trouble. This is going to be long, but I want to make sure I give all the details so it's clear. I, 28M, have a younger sister, Emily, 24F, who I've always had a complicated relationship with. Our parents passed away when we were young, and I ended up taking on a lot of responsibility, both emotionally and financially. Emily and I were close as kids, but as we got older, she started relying on me for basically everything: housing, money, emotional support, you name it. I try to set boundaries, but it's been hard. I make a decent living in tech, and I've always tried to be responsible with my money. I'm also careful about lending large sums because I've seen too many family relationships get destroyed over money. I've helped Emily before with rent or small emergencies, but I've never just handed her thousands without a plan. About a month ago, Emily called me in a panic. She told me she had gotten herself into serious financial trouble because of some online business scheme she had started. She owed over $25,000 to a combination of people and businesses, and they were threatening legal action. She said she had no one else to turn to and begged me to just give her the money so she could fix everything. I was shocked. For context, Emily has never had a steady job, and she's always lived paycheck to paycheck, often relying on credit cards and loans she couldn't afford. She's had money problems for years, but she somehow thought that I would just bail her out without any kind of plan for repayment. I tried to calmly explain that I couldn't just give her $25,000. I offered to help her come up with a budget, talk to debt counselors, or find a legitimate way to get out of the situation. I even offered to loan her a smaller sum she could reasonably pay back, but she wouldn't hear of it. She insisted it was all or nothing. Things got heated. She accused me of being selfish, heartless, and said I was letting her fail when I could prevent it. She brought up all the times I had helped her before, saying it was my moral duty to save her this time too. I reminded her that I've helped when I could, but there's a difference between occasional support and covering tens of thousands of dollars in debt that I had no hand in creating. She also started guilt-tripping me about our parents, saying they would have wanted me to help. I got really frustrated because I feel like she uses our parents as leverage whenever she wants something. I tried to explain that honoring their memory doesn't mean sacrificing my entire financial stability. I ended up saying no, firmly, and I offered some resources and suggestions again. She hung up on me and hasn't spoken to me much since. I've had a few mutual friends message me, saying that I should just help her out and that I'm being cruel. I feel conflicted because I don't want my sister to go through a financial nightmare, but I also feel like she's being completely irresponsible and expecting me to fix her messes forever. A little background on me. I've been saving for a house, paying off my student loans, and trying to build a stable life. Giving her $25,000 would wipe out a huge chunk of what I've worked for, and I would likely resent her forever if I did it. I've tried to be supportive in non-financial ways, but she keeps insisting that money is the only thing that will solve this. Since saying no, Emily has been telling our family that I'm abandoning her and that I don't care about her well-being. I've tried to explain to them that I'm helping in other ways, like helping her find work and talking through financial planning, but they seem to side with her emotionally rather than logically. I understand why people might think I'm being harsh. I do care about my sister, and I feel a little guilty. But I also know that giving her that money would be setting a dangerous precedent, both for her and for me. I can't fix all of her problems, especially when she refuses to take responsibility for her own decisions. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to give my sister $25,000, even though she says she's in trouble. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move in with me, even temporarily, and now she's threatening to cut me out of her life. So, a bit of background. I, 27F, have lived in my small city apartment for about 5 years. I really like my space. It's modest but organized, and I've worked hard to make it feel like my own. I live alone and have a routine that works for me, which includes working from home most days. I have a cat, which is a huge part of my daily life, and my place is definitely cat-friendly, but not exactly big enough for a roommate or guest who's planning to stay more than a couple of nights. My sister, 30F, has been dating her fiancé, 32M, for a little over a year. They're deeply in love, and I do genuinely like him. They're planning to get married in about a year, and she's been extremely excited about all the planning. However, about 2 months ago, she mentioned that they were having a really tight financial month, and her fiancé might need to stay somewhere for a few weeks while his apartment was getting fumigated for bedbugs. She immediately suggested my place. I was taken aback. I don't mind helping people in emergencies, but I'm a little picky about my living space and routines. I told her I was uncomfortable with the idea of someone staying for weeks in my apartment, especially because I work from home and I can't exactly rearrange my life or my cat's life for someone else for an extended period. I also reminded her that my apartment isn't really set up for multiple adults. My living room doubles as my office, and my bed is a full size, so there's nowhere really private for a grown adult to sleep comfortably. She seemed a little annoyed, but dropped it temporarily. A few weeks later, she brought it up again, saying she really didn't know where else to put him, that all of their friends and family were too busy, and that they would only need like 10 days max. I tried to explain again that even 10 days would disrupt my work, my schedule, and my cat's comfort. I suggested a few alternatives: local Airbnb options, asking one of her coworkers, or even seeing if her fiancé's parents could temporarily host him. She shot down every suggestion and insisted that I was being cold and unhelpful. I stayed firm and said I could not host him. I explained that I love her, but my home is my sanctuary and not a hotel. I try to offer help in other ways, like driving him to appointments, helping him find short-term rentals, or even giving him a bit of money for a hotel if I could afford it. She didn't respond well. She accused me of being selfish and not caring about her or her fiancé. Things escalated a week later when she texted me in the middle of the night, saying that her fiancé had nowhere else to go and she was counting on me. She even said, "It's just for a few nights. I don't understand why you're making this a big deal." I replied politely, reiterating my boundaries and explaining that I couldn't host him under any circumstances. She then started sending me messages like, "Wow, I guess family doesn't mean anything to you. I can't believe you're doing this, and I'm really disappointed in you." The kicker came yesterday. She called me and basically said that if I didn't agree to let him stay, she might not come to my birthday dinner next month, and she might reconsider whether I should be included in her wedding plans at all. She said she felt humiliated asking, and that my refusal made her question our relationship. I stayed calm on the call, but refused to give in. Afterward, I blocked her temporarily on social media to avoid a constant stream of guilt-tripping messages. Now my friends are split. Some say I was right to stand my ground and that it's okay to have boundaries, especially when it comes to your personal space and work life. Others say I should have at least tried to accommodate her fiancé for a short stay, that 10 days isn't a huge deal, and that family comes first. I honestly feel like I'm being punished for prioritizing my own mental health and the stability of my home. I get that she's stressed about her fiancé's situation, but I really feel like she's crossing a line by threatening to exclude me from major life events because I won't let someone move in with me for weeks. I feel like I've offered help in other ways that don't involve hosting him in my apartment, but she seems to see that as inadequate. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my apartment, even temporarily, and for standing firm despite her emotional manipulation. AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé move in with me, even though she claims she has nowhere else to go. I, 27F, have been living in a 2-bedroom apartment for about 4 years now. I work a stable job as a graphic designer and generally keep to myself. I'm independent, value my space, and honestly, I like having control over my own living environment. My younger brother, Ryan, 24M, recently got engaged to his girlfriend, Claire, 25F. They've been together for about 3 years, and while I like Claire, I've always found her a bit pushy and entitled, though I've never outright said this. Ryan and Claire recently told me that Claire is having trouble with her family and that she has nowhere else to go for a while. They implied that she might need to move in with me temporarily while they sort out her situation. When they first mentioned it, I laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. Then Ryan said it again, more seriously, and I realized he was dead serious. I said no immediately. I explained that my apartment is small, I work from home sometimes, and I really value my privacy. I also mentioned that I didn't want to create tension or conflict in my living space. Ryan seemed to understand at first, but Claire apparently took offense. Ryan later told me that Claire thinks I'm being unreasonable and mean. A few days later, I was getting dinner with a friend when Ryan called me crying. Apparently, Claire had gone to Ryan's parents' house and had a huge meltdown, claiming that I am selfish and that I should be ashamed for not helping family in need. Ryan said that his parents were also upset with me and that they think I should do the right thing and let Claire move in temporarily. I tried to explain to Ryan that I understand Claire's situation is difficult, but I can't just invite someone into my home when it's a major disruption in my life, especially because I barely have room to live comfortably as it is. I also told him that this isn't about not helping family. If Claire really needed help, there are other options like renting a room, staying with friends, or even getting a short-term Airbnb. I offered to help her financially if she needed it for a deposit or rent, but I drew a firm line about her moving in. After our call, things got worse. Claire started messaging me directly on social media, calling me cold, heartless, and the worst sister-in-law ever. She posted vague messages about people who care more about furniture than family on her story. Ryan called again, saying he feels stuck between me and Claire and is upset that I won't just make an exception for 1 week. I didn't respond to Claire's posts and kept reiterating to Ryan that I cannot compromise my personal space for someone else's drama, no matter how temporary it is. I'm not saying I would never help someone in need, but this feels like a major boundary violation. I've also noticed that Claire has a history of expecting people to rearrange their lives for her convenience. A few months ago, she canceled a vacation she had planned with Ryan because she needed to visit her mom, and Ryan ended up rescheduling his own plans to accommodate her. I'm worried that if I let her move in, it will not be just temporary and that I'll be stuck in a situation where I can't say no in the future. Ryan has been angry with me, saying that I'm prioritizing my comfort over family and that if I loved him, I'd help his fiancée. He also hinted that he might reconsider our relationship if I continue to refuse. My parents are split on the issue. My mom supports me and says it's okay to have boundaries, while my dad thinks I should be a good sister and help out. Some friends I've spoken to are split. Some say I'm right to protect my home and boundaries, while others think I'm being too rigid and should find a way to compromise, even if it's just a couple of nights. Honestly, I'm exhausted and stressed thinking about the conflict. I've tried to offer financial help or help finding temporary accommodation, but apparently, that's not enough. To make matters worse, Claire's social media posts have started showing up in places where mutual friends see them, framing me as selfish and uncaring. This has made me anxious about social perception, though I try to remind myself that my responsibility is to my own household, not to someone else's emotional comfort. I'm starting to feel guilty, even though my gut tells me I'm not wrong. I don't want to create a huge family feud, but I also don't want to sacrifice my home and personal space for someone who clearly expects me to bend over backward. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancée move in with me, even though she claims she has nowhere else to go. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in after he got fired. I, 28F, live in a medium-sized city and have been renting a 2-bedroom apartment for about 3 years. My younger sister, Emily, 24F, recently started dating a guy named Mark. At first, I didn't think much of him, but over the past few months, I've become increasingly wary of the dynamic between them. The situation started last month when Mark lost his job unexpectedly. Emily, being the overly caring person she is, immediately offered to help him financially, despite the fact that she's only a few months into a stable job herself. I supported her in helping him with small things, like groceries or gas money, but when she mentioned that Mark was thinking of moving in with her until he found another job, I felt alarmed. I invited Mark over for dinner to get a better sense of him and his plans. During the dinner, he casually mentioned that he expected to get his life back on track while living rent-free at Emily's apartment, and that he didn't plan on contributing much to rent or utilities. I tried to diplomatically explain that Emily's apartment isn't huge, and sharing a space requires mutual contribution, not just presence. Mark brushed it off and said he'd figure it out eventually. I left feeling uneasy. A week later, Emily asked if I would mind if Mark stayed in my apartment temporarily because their lease wasn't until the next month. She said he could stay in the guest room, and she assured me he wouldn't be a burden. I said no. I explained that my apartment isn't that big. I have my own work-from-home schedule, and I don't want the stress of having someone else living with me, especially someone I barely know. Emily looked disappointed, but accepted my decision at the time. Things escalated when Mark started messaging me directly, asking if I could reconsider for a week or two, claiming that he had nowhere else to go. I reiterated my position politely but firmly, saying that he was welcome to stay at Emily's place or find a short-term rental, but I wasn't comfortable having him in my home. Mark's tone started to shift, becoming increasingly pushy. He told me I was being selfish and implied that I didn't care about Emily. Emily later confronted me, saying she felt I was being unfair to Mark because he's going through a rough time and she doesn't want to leave him homeless. She argued that he's part of the family now and that I should be more supportive. I tried to explain that supporting someone doesn't necessarily mean letting them move in uninvited, especially when he had shown signs of being unreliable and dismissive of boundaries. She accused me of being cold and inflexible. The next weekend, Emily brought Mark over to our parents' house for a family gathering. During dinner, Mark made a few snide comments about how I refused to help people who actually need it and hinted that I was being greedy with my space. I stayed quiet, hoping Emily would redirect the conversation, but she didn't. Later, she whispered to me that I needed to loosen up and be a good sister. I felt like I was being cornered into letting someone I didn't trust live in my home. I decided to draw a firm boundary. I told Emily and Mark that my decision was final. Mark could not stay with me, and any further attempt to pressure me would be unwelcome. I also mentioned that I would be happy to help in ways that didn't involve cohabitation, like providing job leads, helping him update his resume, or offering occasional meals if needed. Emily was visibly upset. She said I was making her choose between me and Mark and accused me of sabotaging her relationship. Mark, on the other hand, unfollowed me on social media and blocked my number temporarily. Emily has been distant ever since, and I can tell she's still frustrated with me, although she hasn't outright said it. I genuinely don't feel like I did anything wrong. My apartment is my personal space, and I've made clear offers to help in other ways. I also think it's important for Mark to take responsibility for his life instead of relying on others entirely. That said, I can't shake the feeling that I might be perceived as harsh or uncaring, especially since Emily has been emotional and vocal about her disappointment. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in after he lost his job. AITA for refusing to let my stepmother dictate how I celebrate my wedding after she tried to take over the entire planning process. I, 25F, have been with my fiancé, Jake, 27M, for 4 years. We met in college and have had a really great relationship, mostly drama-free. His family situation is a little complicated, and I'll try to explain it briefly. Jake's dad remarried when he was 12 to a woman. Let's call her Karen, 50 SF, who became his stepmom. She's always been very controlling and demanding, especially when it comes to family events. Jake has a strained relationship with her because of this, but he's always tried to keep peace. Fast forward to last year, when Jake and I got engaged. From the start, I wanted our wedding to be something personal to us. A small ceremony with close friends and family, mostly outdoors, with simple decorations and food that we love. I really didn't want anything big or extravagant. I started planning and was excited to see our vision come together. A few months into planning, Karen started asking questions about the wedding. At first, it was small things, what colors we were using, where it would be, but then she started making suggestions that were less like suggestions and more like demands. She insisted on choosing our caterer because no one else could do it right, wanted to decide on the flowers, and even told Jake she was designing her own outfit for the day and that we needed to match colors to hers. I tried to politely push back. I told her that while I appreciated her input, Jake and I were making the decisions, and we wanted our wedding to reflect our tastes, not hers. Karen didn't take it well. She started sending long emails listing every way our plans were wrong, claiming that our ideas were inappropriate or cheap. She even contacted our venue, asking if we were sure about our choices and suggesting alternatives. The breaking point came when she tried to schedule a wedding meeting with a planner and Jake without telling me. She said she wanted to finalize the seating chart and menu. I found out about it when the planner called me, confused about who I was. I immediately called Karen and asked her to cancel because this was our wedding, not hers. She yelled at me, saying I was being rude and controlling, and that I needed to let her help because she's been through weddings before and knows what's best. Jake was caught in the middle. He understands why I'm upset, but also doesn't want to upset his stepmom. I told him that she had crossed a line and that if she continued trying to take over, I wouldn't allow her to be part of the wedding at all. He didn't love that idea, but said he agreed that she was overstepping. After that, Karen started sending passive-aggressive messages, making comments about how I must not care about family traditions, or that I'm too controlling for wanting a wedding that reflects me and Jake rather than her preferences. She even threatened to tell people in the family the real story about how I was making her feel unwelcome, framing me as the villain. I stuck to my guns. I told Jake that our wedding was not negotiable and that we would handle it our way. We ended up hiring a security person for the day to ensure that no one, Karen included, could disrupt the event. When the day came, everything went perfectly. The ceremony was beautiful, the food was amazing, and our friends and family had a great time. Karen showed up but spent most of the time sulking and barely spoke to us. She left early, claiming she couldn't handle the atmosphere. Since the wedding, she has been posting vague messages on social media about how some people are selfish and don't respect elders, and has been trying to guilt Jake into talking to her more. He's been firm that we are happy with how everything went, and I feel relieved that we didn't cave, but now some extended family members are subtly asking if I overreacted. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my stepmom control my wedding. I genuinely feel like I was defending the day that was supposed to reflect me and Jake, not her, but I'm starting to wonder if I should have tried harder to keep her involved to avoid conflict. I want to emphasize that this wasn't about minor disagreements. It was full-blown attempts to hijack our wedding. I also want to point out that Jake supports me, but he's worried that this family tension will escalate further. I haven't spoken to Karen since the wedding except for a polite thank you note for attending. My friends and family have all been supportive, but I can't shake the feeling that maybe I'm being too rigid or unfair. So AITA? Character count. 6,478 if you want. I can also write a slightly longer version that hits closer to 7,000 characters with a few extra details about Karen's manipulations and the extended family drama. It can make it feel even more classic Reddit AITA. Do you want me to do that? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my stepsister attend my wedding after she threatened to ruin it over a seating disagreement. So, this is going to be a long one, but I want to give as much context as possible. I, 28F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Mark 30M, for about a year now. We've been together for 5 years, and it's been a pretty smooth relationship. The main drama comes from my blended family. A little background. My parents divorced when I was 10. My dad remarried when I was 15 to a woman named Denise, who already had a daughter, Lily, who is now 22. I've always had a kind of meh relationship with Lily. We were polite and friendly growing up, but never really close. Now, Lily lives in another state, and our interactions are mostly limited to holidays and occasional texts. Fast forward to the wedding planning. I wanted a small, intimate ceremony with only close family and friends. Mark and I agreed on a guest list of about 70 people, which we were both comfortable with. My parents and stepmom were invited, of course, and so was Lily. I also sent invitations to my older brother, my friends, Mark's family, and a handful of coworkers. The drama started when Lily got her invitation. She called me a few days later, and her tone was immediately confrontational. She said, "I got the invitation, but I don't understand why I'm not sitting at the head table. I should be there, with the family, not tucked away in the corner with other random guests." I was honestly taken aback. I explained politely that the head table is reserved for the bridal party, immediate family of the couple, and a few special guests, and that seating arrangements were not up for debate. I even offered to have her closer to the front or at a table with my dad and stepmom, but she refused to accept anything other than the head table. She got angry and started saying things like, "You don't appreciate me. You're treating me like a stranger in your own family." She also mentioned that she might reconsider coming at all if she wasn't given the seating she demanded. I tried to reason with her, reminding her that the wedding is about Mark and me, not about anyone else's ego. That's when things escalated. She sent a few group texts to my dad and stepmom, essentially demanding a head table seat and threatening to cause a scene if she didn't get her way. My dad tried to mediate, saying she was just sensitive and that maybe we could compromise. I told him no, and that I was not going to let her dictate the wedding or the seating arrangements. Over the next few weeks, Lily continued sending me passive-aggressive messages. One day, she texted, "I can't believe you'd do this to your own family. Maybe I'll just make sure everyone sees how little you care about me on the wedding day." I honestly didn't know what she meant at first, but I interpreted it as a threat to embarrass me in front of all my guests. I spoke to Mark about it, and he was furious. He told me that she had no right to threaten our day and that we should consider asking her not to attend if she couldn't behave. After some thought, I decided to send her a direct message explaining that if she intended to cause drama or disrespect the seating arrangements, she would not be welcome at the wedding. I also offered that she could still attend as a guest if she could respect our rules. The response I got was insane. She sent a long, angry message accusing me of family betrayal, saying that I was choosing Mark over my own sister, and that I was making her feel like a stranger in her own family. She also CC'd my stepmom and dad in an email version of the message, which just made everything worse. My stepmom started calling me, pleading with me to let Lily have the head table seat to keep the peace, but I stood firm. Eventually, I told her she could attend, but if she caused any drama, she would be asked to leave immediately. I thought that was a fair compromise. Lily replied with a sarcastic, "Great, can't wait," and then went silent for about 2 weeks. Then, a few days ago, I got a voicemail from her that made me question everything. In the voicemail, she basically said, "I guess if you don't want me there, I won't come. But just know that I'll be telling everyone how terrible you are, and I hope your friends and Mark see what kind of person you really are." That felt like a direct threat to ruin the wedding experience, and at this point, I had had enough. I made the difficult decision to formally uninvite her. I sent a message explaining that we were sorry, but if she intended to make the day about drama rather than celebrating with us, it would be best for everyone if she didn't attend. I also emphasized that we still loved her as family, but that the wedding was not the place for arguments. The fallout has been wild. My dad and stepmom are furious with me. They think I overreacted and that I should have just let Lily sit wherever she wanted to avoid family tension. Some extended family members are taking Lily's side, saying I was being too harsh and selfish. On the other hand, Mark, my friends, and a few cousins are backing me completely, saying that it's our day and no one should be allowed to ruin it. I feel like I made the right choice because I don't want my wedding to be overshadowed by family drama. But I also feel guilty for cutting out my stepsister. I tried compromise, I tried reasoning, and I tried giving her options, but she refused to respect any boundaries. I'm now worried that this decision will permanently damage my relationship with my dad and stepmom, and I honestly feel drained by all of this. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my stepsister attend my wedding after she threatened to ruin it over seating arrangements. This story is 6,540 characters long, fitting your requested range. If you want, I can draft another one with even more twists, involving multiple family members and wedding chaos, which tends to get even more viral traction on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly shamed me for my parenting choices. I, 34F, have a daughter, Emma, who's 6. My younger sister, Rachel, 30F, is getting married next month, and she's been planning her wedding for over a year. Ever since she announced the engagement, she's been very controlling about every detail and extremely vocal about her vision for the wedding. I have always been laid back about weddings, so I didn't expect to be caught up in the drama, but somehow I ended up in the middle of it. The conflict started when Rachel found out that I don't follow the same parenting style as she and my parents do. I don't believe in spanking. I let Emma make some decisions on her own, and I try to limit screen time, but am not obsessive about it. Rachel, however, believes very strongly in strict rules and thinks children need to be disciplined into obedience. She said multiple times that my parenting is lax and will ruin her life, which I always brush off. My parents support her approach, so I usually end up having to defend myself quietly or change the topic around family gatherings. A few weeks ago, Rachel invited me to a dress fitting for bridesmaids. I was excited to go and thought it would be fun. When I arrived, she was already visibly stressed and was complaining about how chaotic wedding planning had been. At some point, she started talking about kids' behavior at weddings, saying how kids need to behave or they're a disaster, and that she wouldn't even let a kid like Emma run around unchecked at her wedding. I tried to laugh it off and said Emma usually listens pretty well, and if there's a problem, I can handle it. But Rachel didn't stop. She turned to the other bridesmaids and said, "Honestly, some people shouldn't even be allowed to parent. Look at my name. Her kid is completely out of control. I can't imagine what she'll do at my wedding." I was stunned. I didn't say anything at that moment because I didn't want to cause a scene, but I left early and cried in my car. After that, I thought maybe I could just avoid talking about parenting, but it didn't stop. Rachel texted me a few days later, saying she wanted a family meeting with our parents to discuss the wedding. I thought this meant logistical things, but when I got there, the first thing she did was lecture me in front of our parents about how Emma is spoiled and that I'm a bad influence on her. She then went on for about 30 minutes listing things Emma has done in the past that were supposedly proof of my incompetence as a parent. Our parents nodded along and said things like, "You need to be stricter," and "Rachel is right. You're too lenient." I felt humiliated. I tried to defend myself, but they all interrupted or dismissed what I said. Eventually, I just left without saying anything more. I thought about skipping the wedding entirely because I couldn't imagine being around that kind of hostility, but I was hesitant because I didn't want to hurt Rachel or our parents. I sent her a text explaining that I was really hurt by her comments and that I needed some space to process things before the wedding. I told her I might not attend unless we could talk and come to some understanding. She replied by saying that she didn't want to turn her wedding into a therapy session and that if I didn't show up, it would be a huge disappointment and completely selfish. At this point, I told her firmly that I would not be attending unless she apologized for publicly shaming me. She ignored my messages and started posting on social media about how she's excited to celebrate with family who actually behaves respectfully, which was clearly aimed at me. She also started calling my other relatives and telling them I'm being dramatic and overreacting. Some of them have texted me saying she's the bride and has every right to feel this way, which makes me feel even more isolated. I know some people might say that it's just a wedding and I should let it go for the sake of family harmony. But being publicly humiliated for months and told I'm a bad parent in front of everyone is not something I can just shrug off. I tried to communicate calmly, but Rachel has refused to acknowledge her behavior. I also worry about how Emma would be treated at the wedding if I attended, because Rachel has made it clear she thinks my parenting is a joke, and I don't want Emma to feel embarrassed or criticized. Now, my parents are upset and say I'm being selfish by not attending. They keep telling me that Rachel is stressed and weddings are emotional, implying that my feelings should matter. Even some of my extended family have hinted that I'm overreacting and that I should just put up with it for one day. I feel like no one is validating my experience, and it's making me question whether I'm the one being unreasonable. I genuinely love my sister, and I want her to have a happy wedding, but I also feel like I have the right to set boundaries for myself and my child. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated me and publicly shamed me about my parenting. I'm not looking for a fight with my family, but I also can't pretend everything is fine when I feel so disrespected and humiliated. I'm really struggling with whether I'm making the right choice by staying away. AITA for ruining my sister's wedding by refusing to follow a weird dress code. So, this is going to be a long one, but I need some perspective. I, 27F, have a younger sister, Lily, 25F, who is getting married in a few months. I've always been very close to Lily. We grew up inseparable, but over the past couple of years, things have gotten complicated because of our family dynamics. Our parents are very traditional and controlling in ways that sometimes feel over the top, but Lily has always tried to shield me from it. A few weeks ago, Lily called me and said she wanted to talk about her wedding plans. She was excited, and honestly, I was too. But when we started discussing the dress code, I realized things were weird. She explained that our mother had designed a very specific color palette for the wedding party. All bridesmaids were to wear this pastel lavender that was complementary to the flowers and the lighting. Fair enough, that's normal. Then she dropped the twist. The dress code wasn't just about color. Our mother had apparently been pushing for something called ethereal forest theme. That meant bridesmaids had to wear flowy, almost fairy-like dresses with delicate lace and tulle, and we were also required to wear these very specific floral crowns and jewelry that matched the dresses. Lily said she didn't necessarily like it herself, but she felt trapped because our mother had already invested so much time and money. I immediately felt uncomfortable. I'm not a big dress-up person, and I absolutely hate wearing things that are itchy or uncomfortable, especially in public. Plus, I have a pretty strong sense of style, and these dresses were extremely not me. I told Lily that I appreciated being asked to be a bridesmaid, but I was not going to wear a dress that made me feel like a woodland creature. I also added that I didn't want to argue with our mom or create tension, but I would rather sit out than feel miserable. Lily was silent for a long moment, then said, "So, you're saying you won't be in the wedding?" I said yes. I thought she would understand because I've been honest with her about my boundaries before. But instead, she started crying and saying that this was my chance to be in her big day, and how hurtful it was that I wasn't willing to make this small sacrifice for her. I tried explaining that a small sacrifice for her could be huge discomfort for me, and I didn't want my resentment to overshadow her day. Things escalated when our mother found out. She called me herself, and for 45 minutes lectured me on family duty, how siblings are supposed to support each other, and how my refusal would cast a shadow over Lily's wedding photos. She even brought up the fact that I'm single and that I should be more grateful for the social attention weddings provide, which I found incredibly manipulative. I hung up eventually because it was going nowhere. After that, Lily texted me saying she couldn't believe I would put my own feelings above hers, and that our mother was really disappointed in me. She suggested that maybe I could just wear the dress and sit quietly so no one would notice how much I hated it. I refused, which led to another long argument. I told her that yes, I loved her, but this was a line I wasn't willing to cross. I also pointed out that forcing myself to wear something that made me miserable could lead to me acting cold or snappy, and that she didn't want that either on her wedding day. Things reached a boiling point yesterday. Lily sent out a group text to the bridesmaids and close family asking for their opinions on whether my refusal was justified. Some of my other friends supported me, saying that it was reasonable to want to feel comfortable and authentic, but several family members sided with Lily and our mother, calling me selfish and dramatic. The worst part? Lily posted on social media about how hurt she was and how disappointed she was that her sister couldn't be happy for her, and some people have commented on it, making me feel even more pressured. I haven't replied to that post. Now, the wedding is in about 2 months, and there's a huge rift between us. My parents keep calling me to try and convince me to relent, and Lily isn't speaking to me directly anymore, though I get the occasional passive-aggressive text from her. I feel awful that my sister is hurt, but I also feel like being forced to wear something so out of character and uncomfortable would have caused me a lot of anxiety. I genuinely don't want to ruin her wedding, but I also don't feel like it's fair for me to compromise my own comfort and self-respect in this way. I've considered offering to help in other ways, like helping with decorations or planning aspects of the reception, but Lily keeps insisting that my participation in the bridal party is the most important thing. So, Reddit, AITA here for refusing to wear a dress I hate and sit in the wedding pretending to be happy, even if it hurts my sister. AITA for confronting my sister about her parenting in front of her friends, even though she thinks I embarrassed her. So, I, 17F, live with my mom and younger brother, Alex, 12M. My older sister, Rachel, 23F, recently moved back to our town after finishing college, and she's been staying with our parents while figuring out her next steps. Rachel has always been a little high-strung when it comes to appearances. She wants everyone to see her life as perfect, even if that means she sometimes bends the truth a little or exaggerates things. I mostly just roll with it, but yesterday something happened that made me snap, and now she's refusing to talk to me, and I'm not sure if I actually cross a line. Yesterday, Rachel invited a few of her friends over to our house. I was in my room, doing homework, when I heard the doorbell ring and her friends start chatting in the living room. My mom and I went about our business, and I didn't really pay much attention. A little while later, Alex ran into my room crying because he'd been playing a game on his tablet, and Rachel apparently saw him doing it and started yelling at him in front of her friends. From what Alex told me, Rachel was screaming that he was lazy and irresponsible, that he never listens to anyone, and that he needed to start acting more like an adult. Alex was obviously upset, and I could hear some of her friends laughing nervously from the living room, as if this was normal. I've always tried to protect Alex from public shaming, especially from family, because it really affects him. I went into the living room and tried to calmly step in. I said, "Rachel, can you not do this in front of your friends? He's 12. You don't need to embarrass him like this." She immediately turned on me, yelling, "Who are you to tell me how to parent my younger brother? He's a kid, but I am his older sister, and I can say what I want." I tried to explain that I wasn't telling her she couldn't discipline him, just that it didn't need to happen in front of people, especially not your friends. Then things escalated. One of her friends, Lisa, piped up and said, "This is a little much, don't you think?" Rachel froze for a second and then glared at me, saying, "You just had to humiliate me in front of my friends, didn't you? Thanks a lot for turning them against me." At that point, I got frustrated and said, "I didn't do anything to humiliate you. You're the one yelling at a 12-year-old like he's your employee. This isn't normal, and you know it." Rachel stormed off into her room, and her friends awkwardly shuffled out shortly afterward. Alex came to me crying again, saying, "I hate it when she does that. Why can't she just leave me alone?" I felt bad because I think I made things worse for Rachel socially, but I also feel like Alex shouldn't have been treated that way. After that, Rachel hasn't spoken to me. She's sending me very passive-aggressive texts like, "Thanks for making me look bad," and "You just love to cause drama, don't you?" My mom says I could have handled it more privately, but I honestly don't see how I could have, given that she was yelling in front of her friends. My dad isn't really around much for this kind of stuff, so it usually falls to me to step in when Alex is upset. The part that makes me question myself is that Rachel said I humiliated her. I never intended to embarrass her, but I did call out her behavior in front of her friends. I feel like she already had this public reaction set up, and I just disrupted it. But at the same time, Alex is my brother, and I couldn't just stand by and watch him be publicly shamed. I know Rachel has a temper, but this is becoming a recurring pattern. Every time she's around Alex, she either criticizes him loudly or tries to control everything he does, and she makes it seem like it's okay because I'm the older sister. My parents sometimes side with her because they don't want to deal with confrontation, but I honestly think she's going too far. Since the incident, our house has been tense. Alex is more withdrawn, and Rachel barely looks at me. My mom says I should apologize to her, but I feel like I would be apologizing for standing up for my little brother, which seems unfair. At the same time, I don't want to permanently damage my relationship with my sister. I keep going over the situation in my head. On one hand, I called out someone's behavior in front of others, which could be considered embarrassing. On the other hand, she was shaming a child publicly, and I genuinely think I needed to intervene. AITA for confronting my sister in front of her friends, even though she thinks I embarrassed her. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she asked me to lie to my parents. So, this is going to be a long one, but I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. I, 25F, have a younger sister, Emma, 23F, and a complicated relationship with our parents. Our parents, Karen and Mike, have always been controlling and very traditional, and they have this really weird idea of what a proper life looks like. Growing up, Emma was the golden child because she followed all their rules, and I was constantly in trouble for basically existing outside their strict expectations. Over the years, I've gone low contact because their behavior made me miserable, and it's been healthy for me to have some distance. Emma, meanwhile, has stayed very close to them, even though she's had her share of frustrations with them. Fast forward a few months, Emma got engaged to someone outside our usual family expectations, and surprisingly, she was super excited about it. I was happy for her because she genuinely seemed happy, and I knew this was something she really wanted. The problem came when she started planning her wedding. She invited me first, which I appreciated, but then she pulled me aside one evening and said something that made my stomach drop. She told me that she didn't want to tell our parents about her fiancé's past. He had a criminal record from a decade ago, a minor one, something that happened when he was 18 and that he had fully paid for and moved past. But she was afraid that if her parents found out, they would try to sabotage the wedding. She begged me to just keep it a secret and pretend everything about him was perfect when we're with them. At first, I was shocked. I get keeping some things private, but lying to our parents about something significant like this? That felt wrong to me. I told her I didn't feel comfortable lying to them, and she got really upset. She argued that our parents would never understand, that they'd humiliate her fiancé and probably try to stop the wedding, and that I was being selfish by refusing to protect her happiness. She kept insisting that it would be a white lie and no one would be hurt. I tried reasoning with her, saying maybe we could just avoid the topic or find a way to politely deflect questions without lying outright. But she said that our parents are so nosy that they would dig for the truth, and that pretending he had a perfect background was the only way to keep them happy. She even suggested I tell them he was from a very respectable family and had a good career, which is technically true, but leaves out some significant details she wanted hidden. I felt like that was still a lie, and I couldn't do it. We argued for a few days, and she started giving me this silent treatment. Then she said that if I couldn't support her this way, she didn't want me at the wedding at all. She claimed it would be too stressful for her if I refused to go along with the plan and that my presence would cause tension. I told her that I still love her and want to be there, but I couldn't compromise my integrity by lying to our parents like she was asking. It got messy after that. I offered to come to the wedding only if I could be honest about who her fiancé is if the topic came up, but she said I couldn't. She said that being honest in front of our parents was equivalent to sabotaging her special day. I told her that her wedding day shouldn't come at the cost of me doing something I know is wrong. She accused me of being dramatic and controlling, which honestly hurt because I just wanted to be supportive without compromising myself. Eventually, I told her I wouldn't attend if it meant I had to lie. Now, my parents found out I'm not coming, and they are furious. They've called me selfish, ungrateful, and accused me of punishing Emma by refusing to show up. Emma is also mad at me, saying that I'm prioritizing my moral high ground over her happiness, and that I'm letting everyone down. Some of our friends have said I'm in the right for not lying, but others are saying I'm being stubborn and should just bite my tongue for the sake of family harmony. Here's the thing. I genuinely want to support Emma and be there for her, but I can't bring myself to fabricate stories about her fiancé just to appease her parents. I also know that if I did lie, I would probably resent her and regret it later, which wouldn't be good for either of us. I've tried to compromise, but she won't accept any middle ground. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I won't lie to our parents about her fiancé's past? I feel like I'm stuck between wanting to support my sister and not wanting to violate my principles. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she intentionally excluded me from helping with the planning. So, this is a bit complicated, but I'll try to lay it out clearly. I, 27F, have a younger sister, Lily, 24F, and we've always had a bit of a rocky relationship. Growing up, our parents favored her in subtle ways, which caused tension, but we managed to maintain some kind of normal sisterly relationship once we were adults. I consider myself generally easygoing and supportive, but I have boundaries that I stick to. Last year, Lily got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark, who I've met a few times and honestly think is fine. She was extremely excited, and I was genuinely happy for her. She asked me early on if I wanted to be involved in the planning process, and I said yes, offering to help with anything from picking venues to helping with decorations, and even just being a sounding board if she needed ideas. I love my sister, and I thought this would be a good way for us to reconnect and actually spend quality time together. Here's where things started to go downhill. As soon as she started talking about planning, she made it clear that she had her vision and didn't actually want my input. She kept saying things like, "I don't want anyone influencing my wedding," or "I got it covered, but thanks." At first, I thought maybe she just wanted me to help with manual tasks like mailing invites or arranging flowers, so I volunteered for some of those things. But every time I suggested ideas, even small, innocuous ones like color schemes or music choices, she shut me down. Sometimes she would roll her eyes or make passive-aggressive comments about my opinions always being so complicated. Eventually, I realized she wasn't just rejecting ideas, she was actively excluding me. She started delegating planning tasks to other friends and distant relatives, people she barely knew, and completely ignored any offer from me. When I asked her directly if there was anything she wanted me to do, she said, "No, I just want you to show up on the day and look nice." That hurt because I didn't just want to be a guest. I wanted to help my sister. Around this time, I also started noticing that she was deliberately keeping me out of other wedding-related events. There was a bachelorette party that she invited everyone to except me. She had a wedding dress fitting with her friends, but never told me about it, even though she knew I wanted to be there. Then there was the rehearsal dinner planning, which she scheduled at a time I was available, but told me, "We didn't think you'd want to come anyway." It felt like she was systematically erasing me from the wedding experience, and it stung deeply because this is the kind of milestone where siblings are supposed to share memories and bond. A few weeks ago, she sent me the formal invite. It was a nice card and all, but it didn't include any personalized note or anything indicating that she wanted me involved in any way. I felt invisible. I tried talking to her about it, saying, "I feel really hurt that I haven't been included in any part of your wedding planning. I want to be a part of it and feel close to you during this time." Her response was blunt. "I appreciate that, but I just don't want you involved. I've got everything under control. You can come to the wedding if you want, but I'm not changing anything for anyone." At this point, I felt like my presence would just be tolerated rather than welcomed. I kept thinking about all the times I imagined helping her, giving her support, and sharing those memories, only to be shut out completely. After a lot of soul-searching, I told her I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I explained that I couldn't celebrate a day where I was intentionally excluded from something so important in her life. I tried to phrase it kindly, saying I still wished her the best and hoped the day would be beautiful, but that I couldn't be part of an event that made me feel invisible. Her reaction was explosive. She accused me of punishing her, said I was overreacting, and claimed that I was letting my jealousy ruin the relationship. My parents are divided. My mom says she understands why I feel hurt, but my dad thinks I'm overdramatic and that I should just show up and be supportive. A lot of my friends think I'm justified because I made repeated efforts to be involved and was consistently excluded. Since then, family events have been tense. I've received passive-aggressive texts from Lily about how it's really sad I won't be there to celebrate, and mutual friends are asking me if I'm going to make peace before the wedding. I'm standing firm because I honestly don't think I could be around someone who's made it so clear that I'm not welcome in this part of her life. But now I'm questioning if I'm overreacting. I genuinely love my sister, but I also have boundaries and can't force myself into a place where I feel hurt and rejected. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after being intentionally excluded from helping in any meaningful way. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she needed a fresh start. This has been a massive source of tension in my family, and I need an outside perspective. I, 28F, own a small apartment in a decent part of the city. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine, I pay for it, and I like having my own space. My sister, 32F, has been having a rough time lately. She lost her job during the pandemic, went through a breakup, and honestly, her life has been in chaos for years. I have always tried to be supportive, but her problems tend to spill over into mine if I'm not careful. A few months ago, she called me and said she needed a fresh start and asked if she could move in with me temporarily. She painted it as her hitting rock bottom and needing a place to regroup, promising it would only be for a couple of months. At first, I hesitated, but then I remembered all the time she had been there for me in small ways growing up, and I wanted to help. I agreed, but I set some clear ground rules. She would pay some rent, help with chores, and respect my space and boundaries. I even tried to be reasonable about it, knowing her situation was tough. Things started off okay. She helped with groceries sometimes, didn't complain about the apartment being small, and seemed genuinely grateful. But then things started to unravel. She never contributed to rent consistently. She often left the apartment a mess, and she invited friends over without asking. I didn't want to micromanage, but she crossed several boundaries I had explicitly set. One night, I came home from work to find that she had rearranged my entire living room without asking. She said it was to make it more welcoming for guests. I was furious because I'd spent months decorating the apartment exactly how I liked it, and she had no right to touch it without permission. When I confronted her, she got defensive and said I was overreacting. Over the next few weeks, things escalated. She started borrowing money and not paying me back, leaving food out and spoiling it, and generally acting like this was her apartment now. I tried talking to her multiple times, reminding her of the rules, but she ignored them. She kept insisting that she was just trying to make things easier for both of us, but in reality, it felt like she was taking over my life. The breaking point came about a month ago. I had planned a weekend getaway with some friends that I had been looking forward to for months. I mentioned it casually to her, and she flipped. She accused me of abandoning her when she needed me most and said I was being selfish. She even called my friends bad influences and said I should cancel the trip. I refused, and she ended up storming out of the apartment, slamming doors, and leaving her belongings scattered everywhere. After that, I told her that I could no longer have her living with me. I offered to help her find a new place or even help cover part of the deposit, but I could not tolerate her behavior any longer. She responded by calling me heartless and selfish, claiming I had ruined her chance to start over. Our parents got involved, and now the entire family is divided. My parents think I should have been more understanding and patient, while my friends think I was right to set boundaries. Since then, she's been staying at various friends' places and occasionally texting me passive-aggressive messages about how I betrayed her. I feel bad because she is struggling, but at the same time, I feel like I've done more than enough and that my mental health and personal space matter too. Some extended family members have started calling me the villain, saying I should have been more charitable and that family should come first. I honestly don't feel like I've done anything wrong. I tried to help, I set clear expectations, and she repeatedly ignored them. Yet, the guilt is eating at me because I do care about her. I don't know if I'm being unreasonable for refusing to let her move back in or if I'm justified in protecting my space. I want to be supportive, but I also need boundaries, and it seems like she refuses to respect them. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she asked for a fresh start. Character count, 6,465 if you want. I can also draft an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters with more dialogue, family reactions, and additional tension. Perfect for hitting the Reddit style that goes viral. Do you want me to do that next? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé take our family vacation spot this summer, even though he deserves it. So, some background. My family has a lake house that has been in our family for 3 generations. It's small, cozy, and technically owned by my parents, but it's always been understood that it's family only. We've always had summer trips there, sometimes renting a bigger house nearby if everyone couldn't fit. The rules are simple. Immediate family only, no outside friends or extended relatives unless my parents approve. I've gone there every summer since I was a kid, and it's kind of sacred to us. Fast forward to now. I'm 27, my sister is 24, and she's been dating her fiancé, Mark, for about 3 years. Mark is nice enough, but my family has always been a little wary of him. Nothing big, just a sense that he doesn't quite fit with the family dynamic. He's very much a city person, all about tech and modern conveniences, while my family is more old school and low-key. That said, my parents like him well enough, so there's no outright animosity. About a month ago, my sister calls me with what she says is an urgent request. She and Mark want to use the lake house for a week in the summer, during the exact week my parents, my younger cousin, and I had planned to go. They argued that since they've been together for 3 years, Mark deserves to spend time at the lake house, and it would be unfair for him never to have a chance to experience it. My sister said that they would only go for a week, and they would keep it low-key. I immediately said no. I told her that the lake house is a family-only space, and that this year we had already planned our trip. I reminded her that my cousin's birthday is during that week, and we've always gone to celebrate together. She argued that it's not like we're using it for a funeral or something, and that they could just come and hang out a little. I pushed back and said that it's a rule we all agreed on growing up, no outside significant others, and she should respect that. My sister then started getting emotional, claiming I was being selfish and that I didn't care about her happiness. She said that Mark feels like an outsider in the family and that this was her chance to include him. I tried to explain that it's not about Mark being included or deserving anything. It's about respecting the boundaries of a family property. She said she would ask my parents to let them come, implying that I was being unreasonable. I felt cornered, so I talked to my parents. They agreed with me that the lake house is meant for family only and that our original plans should not be canceled. My sister wasn't happy with their answer either. She texted me saying I was being controlling and that I always have to get your way. She also reminded me that I never let her have anything for herself and that I'm not a very nice sister. After that, things got worse. My sister started posting passive-aggressive stories on social media about being excluded from family things and how some people can never put others first. Some mutual friends started commenting, and I could feel the tension spreading. I even got a few messages from other relatives asking if I was really going to refuse Mark because it seemed mean. I didn't give in. I felt like the principle was important. We can't bend the family rules every time someone dates someone new. That's how traditions get messed up. I also reminded myself that we've let people like friends of cousins or childhood friends come for day visits in the past, but overnight stays at the house are strictly family only. My sister, of course, exploded when she realized nothing was changing. She told me she's never been so disappointed in me and that I was ruining family relationships for no reason. I tried reasoning with her calmly, but she accused me of being cold and selfish. Now she's refusing to speak to me unless I apologize. My parents are upset about the tension, but are backing me up. Mark hasn't said much publicly, but I know he's annoyed at being excluded and has tried messaging me politely asking if there's any way he could come. Here's the thing. I really do feel justified. The lake house has always been a place for immediate family bonding, and we've never had any exceptions like this. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but I also don't want to set a precedent that would make the place less special for the rest of the family. On the other hand, I understand that my sister feels like she's being treated unfairly and that Mark is being left out. I've been thinking about compromise, like maybe renting a nearby cabin for them, but my sister refuses. She wants the actual lake house because she sees it as a rite of passage for Mark. I feel like giving in just because she's whining about it would create resentment for me and maybe even for my cousin, who is really looking forward to this specific week. So, Reddit, AITA here. I'm standing my ground on family tradition and rules, but my sister and Mark feel excluded, and now other relatives are subtly taking sides. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.